Hi everyone, this is Neel Raithatha, also known as the Wax Whisperer. Thank you for joining me in my latest video. We have here a patient who attended with bilateral occluding earwax, and this is their left ear that we're starting with. In fact, they weren't aware that their right ear was blocked, but as you may have seen when examining their right ear, that ear is also blocked. So it just goes to show how blocked this left ear is in comparison to their right ear, for the patient to believe that their right ear was absolutely fine. And it was only really until I removed all the wax from their left ear that they then noticed how much their right hearing was affected because of the wax. So we ended up removing that as well for the patient. So I initially performed microsuction using a zonal suction probe, but as soon as I touched the surface of this wax, I just felt the consistency wasn't right. It was a bit too firm and dry to get suction grip. Subsequently, I'm just using the St. Bart's ear hook to chisel away the more lateral wax. And we're now just past the second bend. The second bend is the piece of cartilage just to the left. You can see the hairs protruding outwards from 9 o'clock. So that's the second bend. And the first bend is where the hook is right now. On the right-hand side, the piece of cartilage there with the hairs protruding from that section, just here to the right here, at 3 o'clock, where the suction probe is. So that's the first bend, and the second bend is where this wax plug is just, you can see it's coming away from the second bend. So that second bend is about 1 centimetre into the ear canal, and the ear canal, the mean length is about 2.6 centimetres, give or take. And it's that first bend to the second bend, that region where the ear canal is at its most narrowest, we call that the isthmus, and quite often you can get wax trapped in that section. And anything beyond the second bend, we then to the bony part of the ear canal. So the cartilage section of the ear canal, the outer third, and the bony part of the ear canal, which forms the inner 2/3, the junction is at more or less around that second bend. Now, this piece of wax that I'm removing now, this particular segment, it almost looked like a chocolate chip, and you may have seen the thumbnail. It was so uniform and circular. It just looked like a disc. And the patient at one moment did wonder whether one of their children had put a chocolate chip in their ear one evening when they were sleeping. But it was definitely wax. I confirmed that by not by eating it. I dissected through it, and it was definitely wax, but it was so circular, it was unreal. Now, we're now in the inner third of the ear canal, the medial part. Now you can see this is quite in a mess here. Now, to give you a backstory, this patient had been using some earwax softening drops. I think it was hydrogen peroxide, especially by the consistency, it does look like that. And they also got water in the ear. They put their head under water when they were swimming on holiday, and a lot of that water had managed to seep its way through the wax plug and settle near the eardrum. And also the wax plug, it can absorb the water. 60%, give or take, of earwax is made up of dead skin cells that previously lined the ear canal, so exfoliated dead skin cells that have died and shedded, and it's on its way out of the ear. And skin cells are hydrophilic. They are attracted to water, so water gets absorbed by the skin cells, causing the skin cells to expand and swell. So if you've got pre-existing wax, when you use water-based drops or you get water in your ear, that wax plug can absorb the drops and further expand and swell, so it can exacerbate your symptoms. Olive oil drops doesn't cause the skin cells to expand, but olive oil drops can also exacerbate a blockage, because it just adds another lacquer of oil onto the framework of that wax plug. So 60% of the earwax plug is dry matter, dead skin cells, external debris, loose hairs, whilst the remaining 40% is wet matter. So sebum, which is the oily fatty secretion we also found on our scalp, is made up of alcohol, squalene, cholesterols, long chains of saturated and unsaturated fatty acids. And you then have an oily sweat secreted by modified sweat glands in the ear. We call them apocrine glands. And they're the same sweat glands as are found under our armpits and inner groin area. And they produce an oily sweat. So the meshwork of the plug, the framework, if you like, the matrix is formed by the dry matter, and the wet matter fills in that meshwork, that framework, that scaffolding. So if you use olive oil, it just adds another lacquer. So it also can create more of a blockage if you've already got pre-existing earwax plug in your ear. Now, because this water has settled into the ear, and hydrogen peroxide drops, you can get non-water-based ones, so urea hydrogen peroxide, or you can get water-based hydrogen peroxide drops as well. But as soon as hydrogen peroxide drops enter the ear, they react with an enzyme, a perioxidase enzyme, and that's secreted by the ceremonous glands, and that converts hydrogen peroxide drops into water and also into oxygen. So the drops themselves, although they may not be water-based drops initially, they do convert into water. And hydrogen peroxide drops are also alkaline, whereas our ears are slightly acidic. And so it's a combination of that and also the patient getting water in the ear, this water settling, which has caused this patient's skin in the medial section of the ear canal in particular to macerate. You can just see how damp and wet all this is. The skin isn't ulcerated, but it is just tender, it's moist, it's damp, it's macerated. So what I'm trying to do now is just dry up this ear as much as possible, so without taking any risks. So we're just gently kissing the surface of the eardrum. The patient is really still. And I know they're going to be watching this video today, so I hope you enjoyed the video. I know the procedure made a big difference to your hearing, so I'm glad. Again, we're just gently kissing the surface of the ear. I'm trying to get as much of this debris out now. Initially, I wondered whether this patient's got a fungal infection, because you can see these little black dots, but they weren't, for me, fungal spores. They weren't circular enough. I think they were just loose debris from the earwax. But I have recommended this patient as a prophylactic, really, as a preventative measure, to use some ear calm spray. We call it ear calm in the UK. There's other brands that may be available in the UK, but they may be called different types of drops elsewhere or across the globe. But they are acetic acid drops. Now, acetic acid, I think the pH level is about 2.4, so they really help to reacidify the ear. When you get water in the ear, or when you're using these water-based drops, it increases the pH level of the ear. Our ears are naturally acidic. The average pH of an ear is about 5.4, and it can range up to 7, so it can be neutral. And the acidity is important. The acidity is actually created by these oils and sweats that I described earlier. And the acidity helps to inhibit bacterial fungal growth, and also it's believed to act and serve as a natural insect repellent, believe it or not. So when you get water and use these type of drops, it washes away that natural acidity, and your ear can become a bit more alkaline. So acetic acid drops help to reacidify the ear. They won't help to moisturize the skin though, because when you get macerated skin like this, the skin can be really delicate and very easily tear. So when we're working particularly at this region of the ear canal against the bony part of the ear canal, where the skin is really thin, it's less than 0.1 millimeters in thickness here in this region, as opposed to the skin that's lying in the outer third, which is about 1 millimeter in thickness. We've got to be careful. We don't want to cause any abrasions or micro abrasions or traumatize the skin, because it's already delicate, because it's very damp and moist and sweat. Because if you breach that outer layer of skin and you expose the periosteum, which is the sheath that supplies blood and nutrients to the bone, or the perichondrium, which similarly provides the blood supply, the nerves and nutrients to the cartilage, you can then cause a more deeper dermatitis, or even perichondriitis or periosteoitis, which can then cause more structural damage to the ears. So we're going to be really gentle here. And I'm just hovering. If it doesn't come away, I have to be satisfied with that. Don't want to cause any cuts or abrasions here. So yeah, I've asked the patient to use some acetic acid spraying for a week, and then thereafter, if they wish, they can use some olive oil drops just to help moisturize the skin. Believe it or not, when you get water in your ear, it can dry your ear. So it can have, a lot of people, I suspect, get water in the ear because their ears are dry and itchy, believing that if they get water in your ear, it's going to moisturize it. It actually has the opposite effect, because it washes away natural moisturizing factors. So sebum, that oily fatty secretion I described earlier and the oily sweat I described also, they contain natural moisturizing factors which help moisturize the skin that lines the ear canal and help it retain its internal moisture. Water can leach away these natural moisturizing factors, which then leaves the skin exposed. They haven't got this lipid, oily barrier sitting on top of it, which means moisture within the skin cells can rise to the surface and then evaporate, causing a drying and cracking of the skin. So we just need to reacidify this ear. I know ENT, you can find this online as well on their websites. They do recommend sometimes to make your own solution if you do get water. So you can use 1 part rubbing alcohol and 1 part white vinegar, which is essentially acetic acid. Mix that up and put that in your ear, and the acetic acid will reacidify the ear and the alcohol will help to expel moisture. It will homogenize with any moisture in the ear, and then because alcohol has a lower evaporation temperature than water, it will evaporate a lot quicker. That's why our hands get dry when we use rubbing alcohol. It's the same concept. But that sometimes can leave your ear a bit too dry. So there's a particular drops that we sell on our website. Bear in mind when you ship to the UK, it's called Clear Relief Drops. They contain glycerol, which acts as a substitute for alcohol. But glycerol, so it binds to water molecules, absorbs water, reduces swelling. But the glycerol doesn't evaporate as well. But glycerol acts as a natural moisturizing factor. So not only is it absorbing moisture, it's also moisturizing the ear. So it has a dual benefit. So I'm really, really pleased with that. There is a bit of that's all macerated dead skin, really. That skin that's been traumatized by the use of drops and water being logged in their ear when they went swimming. There's no more we can do there. I'm really pleased with that. Any more, they're going to traumatize the ear. So the patient's going to use the acetic acid spray, and then hopefully also moisturize the ear with the use of medical grade olive oil. We recommend medical grade olive oil purely for the reason that if you've got high quality extra virgin oil at home, for example, the way that's extracted and refined, it uses chemicals which can sometimes leave behind some impurities, whereas medical grade olive oil, during that refraction process, that refining process, it doesn't use chemicals, so there's hardly any impurities in there, and instead it's rich in antioxidants, which can help again prevent microbial growth within the ear. So left ear's done. Just as writing out this ear, they didn't use any drops, so that plug of wax was extremely hard, and I initially used a plastic St. Bart's ear hook, but it just wasn't strong enough, so I reverted to a stainless steel one, which again has the potential to cause more trauma in the ear because of course the tensile strength of steel. This is surgical grade steel, I think 303 or 304, but when necessary I do use that. It's not often, but I do. There's this bit of skin here, so I'm just trying to peel it away. We won't get any clarinetting. If we were getting clarinetting, the skin vibrating, I think it's just a bit too thick to clarinet. If it's a bit thinner, then you could probably get some of the clarinetting. So I'm just trying to peel it away. I just decided at that point just to get some forceps. I lifted the skin up just to see if it peels, and I managed to dissect some of the skin. You can see the eardrum, there is some scar tissue there, tympanous sclerosis. The patient does work in a noisy environment, so it could be due to constant acoustic reflections of the eardrum. I'm going to say trauma, but it doesn't have to be acoustic trauma. It can just be a continuous exposure to noise that can also cause that. Or I believe possibly the patient suffered from childhood ear infections, and it's just because it's anteriorly and posteriorly. Kind of often see that in patients with glue ear, possibly even grommets in the past, have that form of tympanoclerosis. So shouldn't affect the hearing, should be fine. You can see that chocolate chip looking look-alike of wax, both the front side and the rear side. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Take care, keep well.